The rooster crowed before the sun kissed the earth, its call slicing through the stillness of the dawn in the village of Nyamadua, nestled deep within Ghana's Ahafo region. Smoke curled lazily from the mud huts as fires were lit to begin the day. But in one corner of the village, silence hung heavier than the morning dew. Kojo sat cross-legged on a raffia mat outside his small, cracked hut. His hands were still covered in soil from the night before, when he dug trenches to stop the rainwater from flooding his home. In the baby basket beside him lay his twin daughters, Sela and Nia, both swaddled in faded cloth. One whimpered softly, the other slept, unaware of the storm that had passed, and the one that remained. Tari, their mother, was gone. No one saw her leave, but everyone noticed her absence. The village women who passed Kojo that morning offered short nods and longer stares. Some whispered. Others crossed to the other side of the path. Kojo didn't flinch. He had known the day might come. Tari had struggled since the birth, her laughter shrinking like cloth in the sun. She often wandered to the baobab tree alone, eyes distant, arms limp. Still, Kojo had held on to hope, until he woke to an empty mat and silence beside him. The girls began to stir. Kojo reached over, scooping Sela into his arms and humming a tune his mother used to sing. His voice cracked, but the melody flowed. Nia opened her eyes, watching her father with a gaze that seemed far older than her days. Kojo rocked them slowly. "You are not alone," he whispered, "and I will not leave." By mid-morning, the village elder, Nana Kwabena, came to visit. His gray robes trailed behind him like smoke, and his walking stick tapped a slow, steady rhythm. He didn't ask questions, just sat down on the mat beside Kojo and exhaled heavily. "You have work to do," Nana said finally, motioning to the girls. "I know. And you have no wife." "I know. And yet, you will raise them." Kojo looked at his daughters. "I must." Nana Kwabena nodded. "Then you will not do it alone." The next day, Mama Afia from 3 huts down arrived with 2 tins of powdered milk. A group of boys from the village helped patch the leaking roof. Uncle Kweku, the carpenter, carved a new crib from redwood. For the first time in days, Kojo allowed himself to feel something other than despair. At night, under the baobab tree where Tari once stood, Kojo spoke aloud. "I don't know why you left, but I will not fail them." He dug deeper trenches, sold his last hen to buy baby soap. He learned how to swaddle, how to warm milk just right, how to sleep with one eye open. And so, in the village of Nyamadua, beneath a tree that had seen generations come and go, a new chapter began, not one built on romance or wealth, but on grit, soil, and the quiet strength of a father who refused to break. The mat was no longer empty. It held the future. The rains had come again, thick, determined sheets that swept through Nyamadua like ancestral spirits, reclaiming the land. Kojo pressed a calabash against the corner of the leaking roof, watching as the water trickled steadily into the bowl. Inside, Sela and Nia slept side by side, their tiny chests rising and falling in rhythm. He had grown leaner, darker from the sun, his hands calloused beyond recognition. Farming during the day and fathering through the night had carved grooves into his cheeks that no smile could soften. Yet still, he woke each morning with a will forged from something deeper than duty. Word of Tari's disappearance had faded from gossip into silence. The villagers had stopped asking. Life, as it always did, moved forward. Kojo spent mornings in the cassava fields and afternoons tending to the compound. He hung damp diapers on lines tied between mango trees and mended the girls' clothes with crooked stitches. Though young, Sela and Nia had begun to show hints of personality. Sela was quiet, curious, Nia loud and demanding. They were a balance of light and storm. But behind the joy they brought, challenges brewed. Milk was becoming harder to afford. Kojo's tools were rusting, and the land had become stubborn beneath his hoe. One evening, as he sat by the fire, pounding yam with trembling arms, his neighbor Kwaku approached. "You're doing too much," he said plainly. Kojo didn't respond. "You need help. Real help." "I have help," Kojo said, gesturing toward the patched roof and the children's cradle. "Charity is not a plan," Kwaku replied, before leaving into the dark. That night, Kojo stared at the stars through a crack in his wall and asked himself a question he had buried deep. What if I fail them? The answer came not in a voice, but a whisper of wind, the same kind that rustled the baobab leaves outside. The next morning, he walked to the village square with a decision on his lips. It was time to build a future with more than sweat. It was time to seek a way for his daughters to learn, grow, and someday stand taller than him. It was time to dream. The village school stood crooked near the edge of Nyamedua. 3 classrooms, faded chalkboards, and desks that wobbled like loose teeth. But to Kojo, it looked like a palace. It was here he brought Sela and Nia, now 5, their feet dusty and their eyes wide. The head teacher, Madame Aqua, raised an eyebrow when Kojo entered with both girls. "They're too young," she said. "They can't even write their names." Kojo bowed slightly. "Then teach them to write. I'll work in the yard, sweep floors, whatever you need. Just let them sit and listen." She paused, staring at the twins, who clutched each other's hands. "I'll give them a week." That week turned into a month. Sela, shy but observant, absorbed everything like dry soil taking rain. Nia, bold and boisterous, challenged every question with another. They shared 1 notebook and 2 pencils, and when Madame Aqua called on them, they always stood together. Kojo rose earlier and worked later. He took on odd jobs, mending fences, fetching water for elders, anything to afford second-hand uniforms. The village slowly shifted its gaze. Where once they had seen tragedy, now they saw triumph in motion. Mama Jali, the herbalist, began offering extra porridge for the girls before school. Uncle Kweku built them a small table to study at home. Even Kwaku, once skeptical, donated a pair of sandals. At night, Kojo lit a kerosene lamp and watched his daughters trace letters into the dirt. He smiled, despite the ache in his bones. One evening, Sela whispered, "Papa, are we poor?" Kojo looked at her, then at Nia, who was already asleep. "We don't have much," he said gently. "But we have each other. That's worth more than gold." From then on, the girls called their lamp the Golden Light, because it never failed, even when everything else felt dim. Education became their shield, their torch, their voice. The road ahead was long, but Kojo knew the fire had been lit, and it would not go out. When the letter came, it was wrapped in a large manila envelope with an official red stamp. Madame Aqua delivered it herself, holding it like sacred parchment. Kojo met her at the front of his compound, hands caked with yam soil, eyes wary. "What is this?" he asked. "The district education office," she said, smiling. "Your daughters have been selected for a special scholarship exam in Sunyani." Kojo stared at the envelope, heart pounding. "Sunyani?" "Yes," Madame Aqua nodded. "They want rural candidates with potential. The top scorers will earn full scholarships to a private academy." Kojo's knees nearly buckled. That night, he sat Sela and Nia down beneath the baobab tree. Fireflies danced in the air like sparks of promise. "There's a big test coming," he told them. "A chance to learn in a place with books, computers, more than we have here." Nia grinned, already imagining adventure. Sela's brow furrowed. But what if we fail? Kojo took both their hands. Then we try again, but you will not go into this alone. The next few weeks became a whirlwind. Madame Akua tutored them after school. Mama Jali brewed herbal tonics to keep them strong. Uncle Kweku built a desk just for study. Still, the road to Sunyani wasn't smooth. As exam day neared, a storm rolled in, both literal and emotional. Kojo fell ill with a fever. Their study lamp cracked and leaked kerosene. One evening, Sela wept quietly, afraid she wasn't smart enough. Kojo, pale but alert, pulled her close. "You were born in thunder," he whispered. "You carry storms in your bones. Don't ever doubt your light." On the morning of the journey, the entire village gathered to send them off. The twins wore matching dresses sewn by Mama Afia, their hair braided tight. Kojo stood tall beside the bus, coughing into a cloth but smiling. "No matter what happens, I'm already proud." And with that, the bus roared into the dawn, heading beyond the hills, toward thunder, toward trials, and perhaps toward triumph. Sunyani was unlike anything Sela and Nia had ever seen. There were cars that roared like lions, tall buildings with glass that caught the sun like fire, and people who moved as fast as their thoughts. The girls clung to each other's hands as they stepped off the bus, their eyes wide with awe and nerves. The Scholarship Testing Center was a gray concrete building with a wide hall and hard-backed chairs. Children from all across the region had come, some in suits, others in polished shoes, all carrying their ambitions like heavy sacks. Sela and Nia had one pen between them. Inside the exam room, the proctor explained the rules. "You have 1 hour, work quietly, no talking, no cheating." The papers were thick and heavy, filled with long passages and strange questions. Sela took a deep breath, her fingers trembling. Nia glanced at her sister, offered a quick nod, and began to write. The clock ticked like a drumbeat. When the hour ended, both girls sat in silence. Neither knew how well they had done. But Kojo's voice echoed in their hearts. "You were born in thunder." Back in Nyamedwa, Kojo waited. Each sunrise brought more hope, each sunset more doubt. His fever had broken, but weakness lingered in his limbs. Still, he returned to the farm, hoe in hand, will unbroken, and then came the harvest. It was the best he'd seen in years, yams fat and golden, tomatoes bursting with life. Even the cassava bloomed richly. The villagers whispered about it. "It's a sign," they said, "a blessing." Kojo sold part of the crop and used the money to buy new clothes for the girls, whether they won the scholarship or not. He didn't want them to come home feeling less. 2 weeks after the test, a letter arrived. This time, it wasn't from Madame Akua. It came by postman, who arrived on a borrowed motorbike, kicking up dust and excitement. Kojo opened it slowly. The twins had scored in the top 3%. Full scholarships, tuition, books, uniforms, even a living stipend. They were to begin the next term at the prestigious Agyeman Educational Academy in Kumasi. He dropped to his knees, not in weakness, but in prayer. When the girls returned home, the entire village welcomed them like returning royalty. Drummers played, women ululated. Kojo stood beside them, arms outstretched. "You are our harvest," he told them, voice thick with emotion, "and this village will never forget the seeds we planted together." Under the baobab tree that night, Kojo lit a fresh lantern. Sela and Nia leaned against him, eyes glittering. "Papa," Nia said, "we're going to Kumasi." "I know," he whispered, "but we'll come back. Someday." Kojo smiled. "Just don't forget who you are." "We are Sela and Nia," they said together, "and we were born in thunder." The years passed like the Harmattan wind, dry, fierce, and unforgettable. Sela and Nia grew tall and graceful. their minds sharpened by textbooks, debates, and city life. Agiman Academy became their springboard. From Kumasi, they earned scholarships to the University of Ghana. Sela studied finance, Nia medicine, but no matter how high they rose, they called home every Sunday at sunset as the light dipped behind the baobab. Kojo, now grayer and slower, never missed those calls. He had stopped farming years ago, passing the land to young men who respected the hands that once tilled it. He spent his days sitting beneath the old tree, listening to the radio and telling stories to curious children who gathered after school. One warm morning, the village awoke to music. Cars, sleek and foreign, rolled into Nyamedua. Out stepped women in tailored Ankara suits and men with cameras and clipboards. Then the crowd parted. Sela and Nia had come home. They weren't girls anymore. They were women, poised, powerful, radiant. Sela had just closed a multi-million-dollar real estate deal. Naya had opened 3 rural clinics across West Africa. But today, they wore simple kente dresses and carried calabashes of palm wine. Kojo's eyes filled with tears. "My daughters," he whispered, "my thunder." That evening, they gathered the entire village beneath the baobab. With a soft voice and strong hands, Sela unveiled a plaque, Nyamedua Learning Center, in honor of Kojo, our first teacher. The center would offer free education, a library, and health services. Nia spoke next, her voice breaking. "You all raised us. We never forgot." Kojo took the microphone, shaking but smiling. "I once had only a raffia mat and 2 hungry mouths," he said. "But look what the rain brought. My girls went beyond the hills, and they brought the stars back with them." The drums played, the fire burned, the village danced, and beneath the baobab, 3 shadows sat quietly, Kojo, Sela, and Nia, just as they had in the beginning, together, home.